In this video, I'm going to be talking about fake Japanese stuff, how you can spot it, and hopefully how you can avoid getting burned. I'll also be showing some genuine freebies that you could get back in the day when you bought CDs and so on. First, I want to tackle the topic of Elvis Japanese records in shrink wrap. This is something that a viewer asked me about recently. Were Elvis records released in shrink wrap? The basic answer is no, but this album was released in shrink. It's the original copy of Pure Gold from late 1975. And you can see it's got this unusual, what you might call a corner obi. And because it sits flush against the top and side, it's possible to wrap the whole thing in shrink without crinkling the obi underneath. The back cover is quite different to the American version. And on the back of the obi, it just has the song titles in Japanese. This was part of a budget series. It was only 1,500 yen. The standard cost of an LP at that time was 2,200 yen or more. So I think this idea may have just been a cost-cutting exercise because they didn't actually release any more albums with this kind of obi. Recently on my community page, I posted something about an auction, an eBay auction for an EP, a Japanese EP, very rare EP from the 1950s. And what interested me about it was the seller insisted that the EP came with what he called a promo bag. And I was very intrigued by this promo bag, but when I looked into it, I discovered that it was nothing more than a shop record bag. Something along these lines. This is actually for an LP, but it's the same idea. So it has the shop name, the shop address, and the shop telephone number. Nothing promo about it. This will happen sometimes. People will get something with Japanese writing on it and they don't know how to read it. So they either just lie and say it's a promo, or they hope it's a promo and say it is. Either way, it's pretty dishonest. I do actually have a couple of record bags that might be of interest. This is a 7-inch record bag from Ishimaru Denki. This company's still going, although they don't sell records anymore. And look who's there in the top corner in his shades. You've also got the Beatles on there somewhere down here, and I think there's Bob Dylan over there as well, Rod Stewart, and so on. And there's even and there's a plastic version as well. One very interesting item I saw on eBay recently was for an Elvis LP that it was a Japanese LP again, which had what the seller described as a promo drill hole. Have you ever heard of that before? A promo drill hole. Well, this is what he was referring to. If you look in the corner here, this single has a little hole in the corner there. It's actually a punch hole, not a drill hole. And it goes right through the company sleeve as well. And you can find quite a lot of records from the early to mid 60s will have these drill holes, not just singles, also LPs and EPs as well. And it's got nothing to do with promo. The reason why these holes were put there is because the records were sold at a discount, and it was to make sure that they were not returned for a full price refund. It's basically the same as American records with the drill hole, or maybe the corner cut off, or the little saw mark in the side of the cover. Definitely not promo. Another problem that you may find, another con that you may run into on eBay is sellers offering a soundtrack album with a bonus book. Sounds great, eh? Paradise Hawaiian Style. This is actually a movie program from 1966. And what they do is they'll sell you the album with the bonus book, i.e. movie program, and they'll charge you more than the combined worth of the two items. So you can probably pick up the Japanese Paradise Hawaiian Style album for about $40 without the obi. Program you can probably get for about $20. But they'll put the two together, suggest or say that the two came that way, and charge you $100 for it. So watch out for that one. Counterfeits. Counterfeits are another problem that you can run into, especially mini LP CDs. And I found a couple recently on eBay. Both of them were Christmas albums. The first one looked very similar to this one. This is an original Japanese one from 2000. There were a couple of differences between this one and the one I saw on eBay. The one on eBay had the little gold sticker. Do you remember how the LP, the American original LP, may have come with a little gold sticker with spaces to write to and from? So it came with one of those, and it also came with a little insert with a picture of, I think it was Colonel Tom in a Santa Claus outfit. The obi was also different. They moved some of the Japanese text, or they removed some of the Japanese text, and down here they put in the Big Bang, Rock and Roll Big Bang logo, and they couldn't even spell it correctly. It was Rock and Roll Big Bang. All that for the bargain price of 140 euros. They also had the Japanese Christmas album using the original 1957 front and back cover designs. What annoys me about this is that they lie and tell you that they are genuine Japanese items when they're not, because they know that if they tell you that they're just counterfeits, then they're not going to get much money for them. There were also quite a few fake Japanese mini LP CDs released going back about 10 or 15 years. Many of them had this obi design here, the Artist of the Century. Mainly they were 70s albums, and this particular series of CDs was still quite easily available at the time. So I'm guessing that they used the genuine CDs and copied the obi design and put them into fake mini LP CDs sleeves. And also I remember other albums were released at that time as well, fake ones. There was the Italian version of From Elvis in Memphis with the blue and white cover, and the Christmas album, the UK Camden version with the red cover, and so on. So be very suspicious if you see mini LP CDs with that obi design. There are also fake LPs out there as well, counterfeit LPs. The most common ones are, I'll just show you a couple of genuine ones to compare. This album here, Golden Records Volume 3, this is the original copy. There is a counterfeit with a very similar front cover. The way to tell the difference between the real one and the counterfeit is to look on the back cover, because the back cover of the original has these foldovers and cutaways at the top and bottom. The counterfeit does not have the foldovers. Also, the biggest giveaway is actually the LP itself. The original album has a black Victor label, whereas the fake has a white label. And that, it actually says on the label, tracks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, con the Jordanaires. Con meaning with in Spanish. It's also pretty apt for this particular release. Another counterfeit that you will find is the counterfeit 10-inch LP Love Me Tender. This is not a counterfeit, but it's also not an original. This is a much later reissue. So I'm showing you this one just to point out that the original, just like this one here, it also has foldovers at the top, just like the Golden Records Volume 3, and at the bottom. The fake versions of this one do not have any foldovers here. This one is an RCA Records, and it has not for sale at the back there. So this is one that was given away a few years ago with purchases of CDs. In fact, as I remember, you had to buy quite a lot of CDs to get this. Also, the labels are quite different as well. If you look at the original labels, they're very dark, black color, whereas the counterfeit labels are much lighter grayish color. Okay, this one, like I said, was a present that you could get back in the day by buying CDs. I'm going to show you a few other things that you could get back, which I have obtained over the years. So the first thing that I have here is this Elvis 20th Anniversary Tower Records. It looks like a handkerchief. I've never opened it, but it's actually, I think it's actually what they call furoshiki in Japanese. And maybe some of you have heard of bento, Japanese lunch boxes. Well, a furoshiki is like a cloth that you wrap around the bento box, because the bento boxes have the base and then the lid, and you wrap one of these around it and tie it up at the top to stop the lid falling off. What else have I got in here? These are some record album cards that came with CDs. Also got this badge, or button as you say in America. This came with the 4 CD box set, which had this cover design for the 68 TV special. And this is a cork coaster that came, I think, with the 2000 mini LP CDs. This one also was given away by Tower Records. In fact, the best items that I have that came free with purchases are not actually Elvis items, but I'll show you them anyway. These are really good. There's a shot glass. It says "No Direction Home," Bob Dylan. So at the time, the Martin Scorsese movie had been released, and I bought the CD, and this little shot glass came with it. And I also have this ashtray with the King Crimson Locked Tongues in Aspic album logo on the inside. Believe it or not, I also have a little dish and even a teapot with the same design on them. These were all, like I say, free items that were available from CD purchases back in the time. If you ever find any dodgy looking Elvis Japanese stuff on the internet and you want to know more about it, just drop me a line and I'll help you if I can. But that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time. Take care. Cheers.